Hey everyone, welcome to another great interview for the 2023 Business Connection Virtual Summit. I'm Bill Marshall, and today we are talking to Bill Eastman from IBGR Radio, and we are going to be talking all about systems, procedures, why are they important, why do we need them? So very important video, and I'm excited to get into it. But Bill, tell us who you are, what you do, and a brief little introduction into what we're going to talk about.
Okay, that's pretty simple. And thank you, Bill, for having me on, and really us, because I represent the network. My name is Bill Eastman. I am one of the co-founders and CEO of the IBGR Network, International Business Growth Radio.network. And what we are is a resource for business owners, entrepreneurs, any company under 10 million in revenue or under 100 employees. We provide resources to them by simply listening to the radio. We are a radio station that doesn't use a tower to broadcast our signal. We use the internet, but we operate as a radio station 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're in 183 countries around the world. And what we did is the two founders come from the consulting and coaching world, and we tried to find a way to get to the small business owner in a non-traditional fashion. So we're really an alteration of a channel as much as we are anything else. We've been in business. We're coming on to our third year. We've been on the air 40 months. And so it's been a lot of fun. And as any startup goes, it has been challenging. And your topic here on processes and SOPs and position descriptions and all the things required to scale a company are things that we have been wrestling with and are wrestling with and will be wrestling with for probably the next year. Because you can't build everything at once. So one of the questions is, what's the sequence?
Absolutely. And I think you touched on a really good point that I think most businesses have to come to terms with is you're always updating these, always developing them, always making them better. And it's the way that we remain efficient or even get anything done within our company, especially as our team grows. So I think the first thing I want to really discuss so that people can really understand what it is what is a procedure, what is a system, why do we use them, what's the basic ideas of what we're talking about that can really help us get a full picture of what they are.
Okay, at the highest level, at the most macro level, a system is a collection of processes put together to achieve an end. So, for example, your financial system,
Hmm.
and it has a number of processes. You've got financial accounting, the things that you do to keep the bank happy if you got a loan, the things you do to keep the IRS happy, the things you got to do around payroll. And then there's another process there and around what we call managerial accounting, in that how do you take the same numbers and break them down so that you fully understand what it costs you to do what you're doing? Because
Yeah.
financial accounting won't give you the discrete data that you need. And there's a lot fewer software packages around the managerial accounting. So that's a system, that's a process. So if you make, let's say you produce 5 products and got 5 different assembly lines, you're going to have to build a minimum of 5 processes for your operations or production system. Same thing if you provide services. If they're all the same, then maybe you have one process, but you could have 4 or 5. Certainly, there's a difference between the development of new products and services that you want to offer as opposed to the delivery of what you have existing, because the goal is with new product development or new service development is you want to get something that is minimally viable, minimum offer, out as quickly as you possibly can at the lowest cost possible in the hands of customers. So that's your mindset. You build a process around that. If you're running operations, you're making something the customer wants, you have a totally different mindset because now your focus is on efficiency and margins. But that's an idea of there are 5. I found there's 5 systems in a business. There's finance, there's strategy, there's operations, there's customers, there's people. And then within those, there are a series of processes, and I can't tell you how many because it depends on what you're doing. But the idea of writing, say, a standing operating procedure, because that gets thrown out a lot, is once you have a process in place and you think it's right, then you write an SOP, standard operating procedure, which is nothing more than a collection of your best practices right now. And I want to emphasize right now, you're using an old piece of equipment that doesn't work that well. That's going to be a different that's going to be a different SOP if you go out and spend 50,000 on a new machine that works perfectly. The instruction is going to change. But the idea behind this is you create a baseline, and it's a great training tool. Because when you hire a new person, how do you train them to use a piece of equipment? You start with the SOP. It's not a training manual, but you're 30, 40% the way down the road to say, okay, here are the steps. And if it's designed correctly, it'll say, here are the steps. What is your role in that step? And here are the supportive resources. You need to go to this website. You need to open this manual. The other thing that an SOP will do for you is it defines the job. So many times we sit down and we go, how do I write a position description? Well, you think about, all the tasks they may do. If you've done the SOPs, all you got to do is look at the SOPs, because one of the things that will indicate who or what position is going to take that step. You just collect all the steps in the SOPs and say, here's your job. So you have a position description that is written much easier. You don't have to get inventive or think things up, and it's going to be more complete. So in basic terms, that's what we're talking about here. And you got to do it, because you can't build a company if you don't do it.
Absolutely. And that's definitely really puts a full picture together on what it is, how it operates, and the benefits that we can start getting from these. And I think that now that our heads are starting to turn with the power of an SOP or a procedure or the different things that we need to develop, I think what we want to kind of get into a little bit is the intricacies of developing one. And we kind of went through a brief example with the financial stuff, but let's say we're to give us a one to build around. Let's say we have a product and we know it has to go through manufacturing, and we don't have to get into the detail of that manufacturing, but like we have a product, it needs to go into manufacturing, and we're trying to come up with a system that has the order come in all the way to the orders delivered, and kind of like give us a little bit of an example of what that could potentially look like.
Okay, and it's a pretty simple process. You can overcomplicate it, but I'm not in favor of that. So the only question to ask is, are you currently doing it, or are you going, we're going to build this for the first time? If you're currently doing it, then what you're going to do is you're going to basically take every major step, and you're going to create an index card. I mean, the simplest thing in the world to do is to map out from beginning to end by index cards. All right. So let's say that starts off in sales. They got to take the order. So you come up with a color for sales and you map that out, each major step along the way. Now, in a minute, I'll talk about what should be on the card. Then it goes to accounting. Okay, that's a green card, okay, because it means money. Where I use sales is a yellow card. Okay, maybe we got something, but until I collect the money, so I use green cards for that. Now it's going over in production, so I use a different color card, that usually white. And so, okay, where does it go first, and what are the steps? And you build a visual map of this whole thing. So if you haven't done it before, this is more of a brainstorming. If you're already doing it, then you're capturing what is going on. Now, you want to do this. Now, if you're a business owner by yourself, you're going to do it by yourself. But if you got anybody working for you, you want to be part of the process, but you don't want to be doing it. If that person's doing that step, you want them to write the index card. So what they got to put on there, they're going to say basically, okay, this is basically what I do here. Okay. If there's any standards to it, they write on there. They put on there, for example, how much time it may take to do, in their mind, that particular step. So when you get this whole thing up on the board, what becomes interesting, number one, is not everybody knows what's going on. So your people will walk up and go, why are we doing that? Which is a very legitimate question, because in order to get a decent margin by what you're producing, you need to eliminate all of the steps you don't need to have. And the simple test of that, really simple, will the customer pay for it if I itemize the bill, yes or no? If the answer is no, the second question, do I have to do this for some legal reason? Like I'm going to get sued, the IRS is going to come after me. If the answer is no, do I have to do it for some engineering quality issue? If you get 3 no's, chuck it. Because one of the quickest ways to improve quality is reduce the steps. every time something's done, you increase the probability you're going to do it wrong. You're going to have defects. So when you put that up, you take that, and of course you count it all the time. And you said, okay, we're saying it's taken us 2 years, 5 months, 10 days to do this job. How long should it take? And you begin to look for economies. Once you get an agreement from people that, yeah, that's it. That's the picture of what we're doing right now. Now you're ready to write an SOP, and you work with that person to say, okay, when you do this, what do you have to do? And you can give them a template to fill out that will basically answer most of those questions. So it's involved, but it's not really that difficult to do. And the last place I did this, it was a manufacturing company. As a matter of fact, we were making furniture. Is that in the breakout room, we put all the cards up for all the processes, then put plexiglass over it, so everybody could look at it and go, so this is what it takes from the time we get an order to the time we install the order, because not only did we sell it, but we had to be responsible for delivering it and installing it. There's the whole process. So that's the way you would map a process, look for efficiencies, then write an SOP and correspondingly the position description.
Yeah, and that's really awesome, especially with the visual aspect, and really, yeah, you captured it. So, um, now that we have an idea of how to put that SOP together, now that we have this new efficient one put like created, now that we have this department, how do we start putting that out to teams to get them to understand what the steps that we've now created are, especially if we've changed them or eliminated certain processes? What does it look like to start implementing this and putting it out there and getting your teams on the same like on board with it?
Well, you start with by the process of building it. By the time you've eliminated all the things you shouldn't be doing, all the waste at a time, they're doing it. They're part of that process. So what you should have is some level of agreement that this is the way we're going to do it. And what you tell them is that this is not carved in stone. This is what we believe is the right way to do it. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a period of time, and you can say 3 months, 6 months. We're going to test it. And if anybody here has an issue with, okay, we didn't get it right, immediately bring it up because to your supervisor or to me, depending upon your organization, and we will deal with that immediately, because the goal here is our sales force is promising X. If we're not delivering it on budget, on time, and it doesn't do the stuff it's supposed to do, we have a major threat to the business. I need to hear about that pretty fast. So
Mm.
number one is you get them involved in it. So it's not your process, it's their process. And you might get teams together. If a process goes through several work teams, you may get them together as kind of a meeting of, okay, let's say it's a three-step, it's three major functions there. So function number two now understands everything that function number one has got to do to get it to them. Because if you look at it from a strict customer perspective, uh, the second group is the customer of the first group. So are we in fact doing what we do? Because I want to make sure that the second stage here goes as efficiently as possible. And of course, that just cascades down. So you get them together so they kind of get a sense of how everything goes. But the deal here is these are our best practices as we know it today, designed by not me or by the supervisor, by us. And it's something, let's say we got it right. Every year we're going to review that. We'll take a 1 month out of the year. You can't do them all at once. So maybe we say every February, we're going to have a meeting to go through this. And you tell me where there are greater efficiencies in this process. Or in some cases, what are we not doing we need to add?
Absolutely. And I like how you're making the point too that it needs to be a team effort and really the ones that are associated with that system, because there's a certain level of ownership that comes with that, a certain level of defeating some of those other things that happen when you start to say, here's how we're going to do something. No one's really going to fight the change if they were a part of making that change. So it definitely helps a lot on the mindset side of things, and getting that association so that it's easier for the managers or the people who are in charge to make sure that all those pieces are coming together. So now that we have a clear vision of what they are, how to put them together, how to implement them, let's kind of wrap it in a bow by talking about some of the results that we can achieve from a standpoint of, what kind of difference does it make when it comes to efficiency? What kind of difference does it make when it comes to sales and things like that? Just to kind of get to put a top on why this is so important.
Yeah, well, this is something. Let's say you got an organization, you got 10 people in it. All right, so we got some resources. One of the persons or individuals' positions that should be involved in this is finance, because as we mapped the process and we basically said, okay, this is it for now. Each step needs to be fully burdened with all its costs, all the variable costs, which is typically labor and material, plus fixed cost. So what percentage of the total fixed cost running the business does this step take? And typically people do this by time. If this is for 15 minutes, then what's their share of the lease? What's their share of electricity? Now, the reason for that is, are you profitable? Is this product or this service profitable? If you're using something like QuickBooks, it's a great system. So it's not to put down to QuickBooks. You don't know what is profitable and what isn't. You have aggregate numbers. When you do this, you can say, okay, I know exactly what it cost us to produce it. All the costs that are in there. Now I'm looking at the price we're charging going, what is the real margin? Because the sum total of margins is profit.
Mm-hmm.
And so, hey, it gives you the ability to run any business with an attention to your margin. It's not everything in a business, but if you're not paying attention to margin, you're in trouble. And so to me, the biggest benefit here is I can look at a service that we're delivering and realize that we're making a 15% gross margin on that. Well, when you take all the other things involved, I may be breaking even on that particular item. And then we got to say, okay, we got to make a couple choices. Do we raise the price? Or do we stop doing it? Or is there more efficiencies? So I can start asking very interesting questions. If I got 5 service lines and only one of them is really making money, why aren't we pouring all of the company's resources into that one service line that has the best margins? Now, there may be lots of reasons, like it's not our entry level offer and things of that nature, but you're able to answer the questions about how to run this business better, more profitable, so you can take that money and put it back in to do good stuff.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the reoccurring themes a lot with the different interviews we've done this year is really driving home the point of that we need to understand our company as a living thing, and that all of these different pieces are part of that health checkup, and keep it moving forward so that we don't get caught off guard, where we think that we're making money, but really we're just cranking out enough volume to survive. And that's not necessarily a company that's profitable.
The first
So
time there's a slowdown, you're going to find out about that.
exactly. And that's race is never something you want to face down. So this has been awesome. I really think that we covered a lot of different things that people need to understand about this topic, but also that what they can do with this topic. So Bill, tell us how we can get a hold of you if anyone wants to talk more about it, learn how
Okay.
to be on the radio, any of that stuff.
All right. So, a couple ways that you can reach me. The easiest is email, programming@ibgr.network. That's programming with 2 M's at ibgr.network. That's the one I would tell you, because we're always in the studio. So calling in sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Emails pop up because I can work an email while I'm on the air. I can't work a phone call. Now, the IBGR network is interesting. Is you go to our website, and on every page of our website is a way of listening. Now, we have a brand new listener guide out. We just started a season. So if you wanted to go through there and say, look, I'm in a startup phase and I want to know about operations. Well, immediately that's going to tell you Tuesdays are the days you want to be listening, because Tuesdays we do operations all day. And this show is focused on startup operations in small businesses. And so we're on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no topic around small business, startup growth, renewal, or exit that we don't cover. And it's free. You just got to listen to it. That's really what it comes down to.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you, everyone, for watching another great interview from the 2023 Business Connection Virtual Summit. I am Bill Marshall, and we will see you all in the networking event tonight. Bye.
Thank you.